This is my routine update for DPA members. Emeku Gwonya speaking. For those who are seeing me for the first time, my name is Emeku Gwonya. I'm the founder of DPA. That's the Due Process Advocates. Today is Sunday, the 24th of September. Normally, on weekends like this, I will give an update to members of DPA, pointing out the direction of our organization and our movement, things to expect in the coming days, or the latest changes that have occurred. Also, sometimes I use the opportunity of my writings and broadcasts of this nature to reveal my thoughts, my thought processes concerning DPA. It's always very important to keep myself as close as possible to our members so they would know what is going on in my mind, at any point in time. And that's what I intend to do in the course of this this discussion. All of you, DPA members, must have noticed very disturbing development in the past 3 weeks to 2 weeks. It's been a very difficult summer for us, I must admit that, because we had so many people who are dissatisfied with us, and you see them expressing these things. And when I say so many, it's not a statistical statement. Statistically, those who are dissatisfied are very small, extremely small, compared to the overwhelming majority of DPA members that are satisfied. But for me as a leader, it's not my goal to have even one single person that is not happy. That's not my goal. So I'm not satisfied. It's not enough for me to say that those who are dissatisfied are few, therefore we can ignore them. No. We wouldn't ignore anybody. The whole goal of DPA, or the way I see my role in DPA, is to unify people, to bring people together, and to point the way for us in the search for justice in Nigeria. It's not okay for me to say, well, those complaining are few in number. No, I'm not satisfied. Insofar as there is even a single person in DPA that is not satisfied, I consider that a problem. But this summer, that's in the past 3 months, we have had extraordinary explosions of controversies, displeasure, and a lot of concerns being expressed, and I'm not satisfied. What I did, or what I've been doing all this while, was twofold in nature. On the one hand, I tried to explain what led to each incident, and at the same time, on the other hand, I tried to find out a way for us to avoid a reoccurrence. So I have been doing quite a lot of significant level of soul searching. By soul searching, I have had to retrace my steps and go back in time to maybe a year ago, and step by step I began to ask myself, what went wrong? Where did I get it wrong? Where did we get it wrong? How can we do it better? Leadership is not about defending yourself. Leadership is not about saying, oh, it's someone else's fault. Leadership is not about blaming it on someone else. Leadership is about preventing trouble, making sure that as many as possible people are happy, making sure that you are doing the best you can to satisfy the quests and yearnings of people. It's not okay for me to say, oh, this woman is against me because she's disgruntled. This woman is against me because she is unhappy I didn't give her. No. I know I have said those things, but I can tell you that those are not my ultimate defense. Those are not my ultimate position. My goal is not to identify who else was wrong. My goal is to avoid those problems. My goal is to make sure that we avoid mistakes of this nature, we avoid incidents of this nature, and where we failed to avoid them, my goal is to make sure they don't reoccur, that we don't repeat them. So I have been thinking and asking myself what went wrong, how did we do it? And I've come up with some answers. I have come up with some conclusions as to where we got wrong. You see, DPA grew up extremely rapidly, very rapidly. DPA is new in Nigeria in the sense of what we are trying to do has not been done before in the manner we are trying to do them. We have never had a situation in Nigeria where anybody would try to have, how do I put it, where somebody don't have a system where everybody can have access to justice. Indeed, when the idea crossed my mind, it didn't cross my mind as part of DPA. You know, it crossed my mind that we could do something for the little people in Nigeria so that they can have equal access to justice. Why would we have two types of legal system, one for the rich, one for the poor? Why would a poor person endure so much, suffer so much, just because the legal system doesn't allow him an access? He could be arrested, he could be detained. It doesn't really matter whether he's innocent or guilty. He could be arrested, detained, tortured, humiliated, and ultimately set free, but he still suffers. So how could we do that? How could we make sure that the average child, the average 22-year-old boy, when the police stop him on the road, how can we make sure that the police will treat him the way they would treat the son of the governor? So we figured that the problem is that the poor boy doesn't have access to justice. He couldn't afford lawyers. He had nobody to speak for him. So we said, okay, let us create something. Let us make DPA available to this boy. Let's make sure that when the police stops him, yes, he's not the son of the governor, but he's not really without support. And that's where DPA comes in. From these police incidents, we got into the issues of domestic violence. After the case of Chacha's case was extremely horrendous for me. Now, you may not go all the way to the question of who killed Chacha or whether Chacha is dead. Let us just leave that. Let us go back to the fact that for a long time, Chacha was complaining repeatedly that her husband was abusing her. She wrote so extensively, she put it on film everywhere. So how come that this woman was so vulnerable, so exposed to what she complained? Nothing in the system came in to support her. No protection. Can you imagine that? A woman complained that her husband is going to kill her. She complained that she was afraid for herself, for her life. And then suddenly the woman disappears. And no real person was arrested except the woman's friends, accused by her husband of being her boyfriend. So, from the Chacha's case, DPA got in to look deeply into domestic violence issues in Nigeria, and it's horrendous. So, but as we retrace this step, we ask ourselves what went wrong. And in my assessment, DPA grew too fast. DPA began to intervene without adequate preparation. What I mean by without adequate preparation was that the structures for our intervention were not adequate. From the beginning, I was exposed to direct communication with people. I was exposed to direct communication with people, including people who have all kinds of problems, including cases of hoax. That's where no real thing happened, and somebody was just testing us. Under normal circumstances, before I would do what I did in DPA, we're supposed to have adequate structure. We're supposed to have staff who will be a buffer between me and the complainants, so that when people complain or report incidents, it doesn't come straight to me. It will go to intermediate people who will process and transmit to me. And insofar as we have those people, they will help create some kind of standards. We didn't have that. And that was also because we didn't have money. So I found myself directly communicating with people, and it created problems because I became very terribly exposed. I was exposed to the extent that somebody could now say, well, she was communicating with Emeka Ubuonye, and then it becomes a matter of what she said, what Emeka said, and once I was placed in the position of trading words with these people, that is a great problem for me. It undermined my credibility, it undermined my effectiveness, it raised all kinds of questions. So as I look back, I realize how things went wrong. And I've asked myself, thank God These people complaining are only complaining because of what they said I said to them in inbox exchanges. What if we had met? What if those people had said, oh, Emeka touched me, Emeka groped me, Emeka touched my breast or my butt or something like that? It would have been extremely devastating for me. So today, we are just dealing with what they said I said. And initially, I had found safety in the fact that the communication was in writing and online. Because it was online, it was safe, nobody can add it. But I forgot two things. I forgot that people could indeed create fake chat. People could indeed claim you said what you did not say because they can create a fake chat. That's one thing I discovered lately, and that is quite alarming. Then, something else I forgot is that some people are really so low in their status or the way they see themselves, such that any communication with Emeka Ugwuonye will boost them, will make them more popular, get them noticed. It makes them a big person or big people. They chatted with Emeka Ugwuonye. And that is why some people would basically begin to say, oh, Emeka said this and that. And nobody really cares about what exactly did Emeka say. The mere fact that Emeka was chatting with this person is already a big problem in itself. I will give you an example of a woman called Akum. The woman Akum reported to me online that her husband had done something to her. I evaluated the stories, interacted with her briefly. I realized that Akum was terribly wrong. So I said to her, ma'am, we can't quite represent you. DPA cannot represent you on its charitable premise. However, what you need is a lawyer. Go to a lawyer. This doesn't fit the DPA because in DPA we help victims. We don't help people who think they are wrong. We have to believe in your case before we represent you. So this woman was actually the person that provoked her husband. We knew she was at fault. So we said, madam, go get a lawyer. She said she wants me to be her lawyer. I said, if I take your case outside the DPA platform, my fee is going to be 2 million naira. I said that on purpose. Because you see, the whole idea is you cannot encourage people to cause trouble. You cannot say because you represent people free of charge, that should now become an excuse for them to begin to provoke trouble. So when I told this woman 2 million naira was going to be my fee if I was to represent her outside DPA, of course, it looks very innocent. And indeed, I achieved the result because once I told her the 2 million, she went back and reconciled with her husband, which was precisely what I expected. She reconciled with her husband. So she left the matter lying as it was. But she had anger in her that I did not help her. She felt I charged her 2 million. So now she waited until recently when there was this uproar from Sonia and Ivie and Olubumi. So she waited for that, and now she comes out and she says, oh, Emeka Ugwuonye charged me 2 million. And she plays the chart where I charged her 2 million. Now, people don't get the context. People don't get the context. People now think, oh, well, Emeka is charging people 2 million to represent them. No. We didn't represent her. We didn't want to represent her. We knew she was provoking her husband. We knew she was doing precisely the opposite of what DPA was. And the only way to discourage her was to give her a fee that she could not afford. And guess what? She reconciled with her husband. They're now together. They're happy together. Otherwise, she would just have provoked a needless fight. So that's just an instance. Then there was another instance. A lady called, she had used different names on Facebook, Efficient Gift, Efficient Grace. I don't know exactly what it was. This woman, with her former name on Facebook, she contacted me. She pressed for me. She did a whole lot of things to talk to me. I didn't have time. But finally, she called me while I was in Abuja. And wanted to see me. I said, sure, you can come to see me. Because she too was visiting Abuja. She's based in Anambra State. She came to see me in my hotel in Abuja. I allowed her to come because I had my staff with me. And there were other DPA members there. So she came in, she met them, and we talked. She indicated interest in working for DPA in Anambra State. She said she must join and become part of the chapter executives. I told her that there are 2 chapters in DPA in Anambra State. I asked her to choose. She chose the Onitsha chapter. I said, all right, I will link her up with the chapter coordinator. So she left. We took a picture. She was very happy. She posted the picture and said very wonderful things about me. Then guess what? She returned to our nation. A few days after the incident, we had a case about a 5-year-old girl that was raped in her school. I was mobilizing for efforts to do something in that case. This efficient woman, efficient Grace, or efficient whatever, she called me. She said she was in Anambra State. If she could go and intervene and represent DPA in the matter, I said, sure, please go and represent us in the matter. I gave her a clear guideline, which I already wrote out. But this woman went to that place and collected money from the principal of the school. She collected money without my knowledge. She collected 150,000 from the principal of the school. So when I heard about it, I asked her, who authorized you to collect money? She said she collected it in order to settle the matter, and that stuff. I was so disappointed. I then realized that she was not really capable of representing the DPA in the matter. So I dismissed her from that assignment. I said, no, ma'am, you cannot represent us in that matter. She lay low. For 2 months, she didn't say a word. She understood my position. But because of the current agitations and with Sonia calling me names and all those things, all these people who were not satisfied, but who were afraid to come attack me, they felt they were justified to attack me, and they come on with peddle these stories. So now, this is not for the purpose of showing that that I'm disappointed or that I'm angry with. No, I'm not angry. I am confronted with a leadership challenge. And that leadership challenge is, how can we avoid a reoccurrence? How can we do it better? How can we avoid the mistakes that I have now identified? This is precisely why, if you noticed recently, I have withdrawn from direct communication. I read all the reports. I read the complaints of people. When you write to me and say you have a problem, I read it. Yes, I read all your inboxes, but I don't contact you directly. I estimate the problem from what it is. I will assign your file to one of the admin people. The admin person is going to contact you, process you. For the purpose of getting the key information, they pass it on to me, and a lot of the time we solve it. Some other times,